Good afternoon. Welcome to the Sutton Means Business webinar, brought to you by the successful Sutton bid. Great to be back here again for our second webinar this week. Today we're talking about security. In this time of lockdown, as businesses, we are obviously worried about our business premises. We're worried about how, if we are all working from home, as many of us are, who is actually looking after the high street, ensuring that our businesses' properties are safe, and also what is the implication for us as business in terms of our commercial rents and our other obligations that we have, our overheads, that at this current time we're not actually able to be in our premises. So today we've got another great lineup of experts here to talk to you. I just want to first of all pass over to Patricia Park, who is very well known to everybody, I'm sure, as being the manager here for Successful Bid. Hi, Patricia, just give us a bit of an update from the bid's perspective.
Hi, yes, so thanks everyone for coming today. So from a bid perspective, we put quite a few measures in place when the high street went down into a lockdown. So we have our bid support officer, who's Rupert, who's actually on this conference today with us. Who comes from First Line Security. So Rupert is doing patrols regularly throughout the high street. He's also working quite closely with the police around making sure some of the premises are safe. But also we extended our town centre radio scheme for a lot of the businesses that are still in operation as well. So we had a good look before lockdown to see which ones were going to be essential. And then we decided to supply those guys with radios who weren't already on the scheme, and that's working out really well. So there's a lot of communication going on between them up and down the high street. So I suppose really for us, the idea of having these webinar sessions is for everybody to be able to put forward their view and also give us an idea of what more we can do. I think we're not a kind of an infinite resource of ideas. So as a bid, it's important to us we're delivering in the right areas and we're getting the right messages out there, and we just want to see what businesses want from us as the levy payers. Essentially, you pay for us to be here. So it's important you have your say. And yeah, just hopefully we're able to cover as much as we possibly can and work continually with Met Police and with other colleagues to ensure that the high street is kept as safe as possible over the time that we're talking about, really.
That's great. I mean, the role of any business improvement district has always been one of the key themes anywhere that I've ever worked in. Has always been safety has always been a sort of a key important factor, and it's an extra added value that a business improvement district can bring to an area on top of the statutory service that a local authority and indeed the police can provide. I guess these are really unprecedented times, and no one could have foresawn that we would have been in this situation. So that must bring complete new challenges to a business and you and your very small team now dealing with some totally different circumstances. And it's an ever-changing world, isn't it? We're almost making it up as we go along in terms of how we need to react, what we need to do, and I guess we're going to be hearing a bit more about that from the police a little bit later. Before I introduce the rest of our panel, I just want to let those of you that are joining us know how you can talk to us this morning. First of all, you have the opportunity to ask a question, and in your taskbar on your screen you'll see the Q&A question, and that will come up and tell me that if you type into that box, that will it will enable me to ask the question for you. If you're feeling brave and you want to ask the question in person yourself, we'd really love you to do that this morning. Let's make this as interactive as possible. You can do that by raising a virtual hand at me, so sort of effectively waving at me from your control panel. That will let me know that you want to come online and ask your question in person, which would be really great if those of you are feeling brave can do that. We also have a chat button, and if you just want to make some comments or you want to share some thoughts or maybe some documentation with other people that are watching, including our panelists, you can do that. You can do that either by talking to everybody. You'll see there's a little drop down arrow and it tells you who's watching, and you can then say I only want to talk to person A or to person B, or you can talk to everybody. So the idea this afternoon is to try and make the next 45 minutes or so as interactive as possible, and this is really your chance to talk to people that perhaps normally it's quite hard to get hold of these people. They're all busy, and the normal lines of communications are snowed under with calls. So, this is your chance to get to talk to a real person rather than having to go online and put your question through an online portal. So just encourage you to use that opportunity. So I've just introduced you to our panel. As I said, we have a really strong panel with us this morning, and we're delighted to have two people here from the Met Police. First of all, Rags Mergen Nathan. Apologies if I've not pronounced that right. Rags is the Business Crime Partnership and Engagement Manager, and both Rags and Inspector Kathy Thomas are two people that work in the crime prevention unit of the Met Police, and they look after Sutton as well as neighbouring boroughs. And they're able to this morning to really give you some insight on the current situation in Sutton and more widely across London, what they're seeing in terms of what's happening in terms of crime rates, and also issues that are currently out there in terms of business premises and keeping high streets safe. Supporting them also with a connection to the police is Neil Sinclair. Now, Neil is the National Cyber Lead for the Police Digital Security Centre. That's quite a mouthful, isn't it? Now, I've heard Neil speak on a previous webinar, and I think I was surprised at, as a business owner, how much more there is to cybersecurity than I'd actually considered. And I think Neil is going to talk to us about how, when we furloughed a lot of staff, many of us are working from home, how actually now is the time that we need to really make sure that our cybersecurity is absolutely up to date and is kept up to date to avoid many of the issues that we're seeing with this new way that we're working online. Never before, I guess, has cybersecurity been more important, and many of us didn't see it coming. So we probably have a bit of catching up to do. So it'll be really great to hear a little bit more from Neil. And then also with us this morning is Rupert Short. Now, Rupert should be a well-known face to anybody who has a business in the successful Sutton bid area. Rupert really is the man on the ground. He is working with the bid and for the bid, and he's leading on the security element of keeping the high street safe from a bid point of view. So at the moment, he's really busy helping the many dozens of businesses that are still open in the high street, offering those essential services and making sure that people are sort of following the rules in terms of social distancing and sorting out any other issues. So he is here this morning to share a bit of insight. And if any of you have got particular questions that you want to put about maybe how you could access his service or how maybe he could be a bit more support to you, it would be great for you to put those questions too. Now, joining us in a little while, we also have a gentleman called Mark Skelton, who's from SHW, who are based in Epsom and Croydon. They are one of the main commercial agents for the area, and they're going to talk us a little bit about the commercial property market and how our business premises are being affected by this, and perhaps can give us a bit of insight into the issue of commercial rents and the fact that we all seem to still have to pay them even though we're not in our premises at the moment, and what could we perhaps do about that to persuade our landlords to be supportive in this present time. So that's he's going to be joining us in just a short while. I'm going to now go to Rags. Rags, give you the floor really, just to tell us a little bit about your role and what you're seeing at the moment and what businesses should be aware of.
Hey, so I'm from the Met Police Business Crime Hub. We're a pan-London engagement team created to improve partnership and communication between the business community and the Met Police. So we engage with businesses at a strategic level, track crime trends, come up with crime prevention strategies, and we do store visits or premises visits to see physical security and where it can be improved. So I want to run down some national figures that were compiled over the last week, which comes from Operation Tala, which is West Mercia Police. They have an operation going where they track retail and food crime throughout the UK. So the week beginning 6th of April, burglary in the business community actually hit a low of 289 offences, which is 75% down from the previous year. But it did rise to 360 the week after. Please note this is UK-wide. It's important to know that as the lockdown continues, offenders will become more desperate, and with less people in the street, closed premises do become a bigger target. And also there's a possibility with people staying at home, people may only discover crimes once they return to their place of work. Shoplifting's also seen an increase in the same time frame. And there's been increased abuse, unfortunately, towards staff, despite the queuing measures, increased security. Unfortunately, with supermarkets being one of the only businesses still open, they do present a target. Something that I picked up from a meeting in Westminster is an increase in aggressive begging. And people have noted that they're operating in larger groups as well. Many hotels are very gratefully housing the homeless, which might contribute to a spike in your local area of these offences. I know, given the current circumstances, people might be reluctant to move them on, but I'd urge you, if you have an issue with this, again, contact with your local policing team or with your BID, a patrol team. Pass your intel on to them, onto the Business Crime Reduction Partnership. A greater worry at the moment would be if they become entrenched in an area, which then makes it more difficult for them to be moved on later. Convenience stores as well, they've been victims of tobacco and alcohol theft, most likely due to a decrease in footfall to those locations, with more people attending the biggest supermarkets. There's less people attending those places. So I'd urge you all, if your businesses are open, please be aware when unloading and loading goods. Just be vigilant about who's around. Also ATMs, there hasn't been any increase in ATMs, but there is, do be aware that because people are using cards, supermarkets aren't accepting cash. There will be more cash held in these machines. So if you have an ATM on the outside of your premises or possibly within your building, it is something to be aware of, that they could become a target. Other bits of crime, I think Inspector Caffey will go into, and Neil as well. There have been increases in fraud and also domestic related incidents. But we're still policing as usual, and there are helplines for those areas. Also, I did want to say, at the moment, counterterrorism policing at NCTPHQ, the ACT awareness training is online for free. You can sign up as an organisation or sign up individually. It's a 45-minute training tool, and it's really good, and I'd recommend everyone have a go at that. I can send out the link later if you'd like.
I was going to ask if you could share that link. I don't know whether you can type it into the chat so that people can see it as we're going along. And that's aimed at anybody. What is the main audience for that training?
Everyone. Absolutely everyone. Businesses, all members of the public.
Okay, and that's sort of general awareness or general advice?
Yes, what to look out for, what to do in situations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, I'm going to ask Kathy to come into the conversation. Inspector Kathy Thomas, tell us a little bit about it from your perspective.
Yeah, well, I mean, just pointed on what Rags has highlighted, really, that we come the lockdown, which was around the 20th or 23rd of March, we did see a vast decrease, obviously, in some high priority crimes, such as residential burglary. Commercial burglaries dropped vastly by 50%. In Sutton specifically, which I know this is a Sutton forum, so I thought you may be interested, we haven't seen a marked rise since that dip. So we've got very low amount of commercial burglaries being committed across the borough at the moment. But that doesn't mean that we can sit on our laurels. Obviously, there's still criminality out there, and we are maintaining a visible presence throughout the borough. Obviously, we take into account the BCU, which includes Croydon and Bromley. So we've got officers across our BCU providing patrols. So to identify any of these activities taking place. We also have, obviously, we've had to adapt slightly to the situation by looking at our priorities. For instance, ASB has increased as it would do. I think Rags hit on it just slightly there with regards to the increase in begging, etc. But just generally, ASB under the COVID legislation has increased by almost 80%. This predominantly, however, just to put that in some context, is around the COVID legislation only. So they're one-off ASB issues. But it doesn't matter. What we are sort of saying to the public and to the community is if anyone's got any intelligence or wishes to report any matters, that they still continue to do so. Preferably not on the 999 call, but using the 101 and coming on to doing it online as well is helpful. It means that we're gathering intelligence, and we have daily meetings where we are deciding on our priorities for the day and where our patrols will take place, so we can action accordingly. So we need that information to come into us so that we can patrol in those areas.
Kathy, can I just ask on that? Because I know it's often difficult to know, what you would consider to be of interest, and you don't want to sort of be making a call that is just a time waste. But are you literally saying if you're in the local park and you happen to see, I don't know, someone having a barbecue or someone who's laid their picnic blanket out and they decided that it's a lovely sunny day that they'll have a picnic? Is it that type of thing that you want to?
Yeah, by all means, call it in. By all means, call it in. We will review it and we will risk assess it. And if needed be, we will action on it. We may not be actioning on every single CAD that we receive, but by all means, please do call in, and then we can actually review and assess, as I said. So it is those types of situations. So moving forward, though, obviously, we want to help prevent. And so I know that we've been working very closely with the Business Crime Hub on issuing out preventative advice around retail outlets, those premises that are no longer working at the moment due to the lockdown. We are patrolling those areas as well. And again, we are collating intelligence on those premises to ensure the preventative and the safety of those premises. So again, if anyone sees anything when they're out and about, please do call it in and so forth. Even if premises are supposedly meant to be locked down and aren't locking down, we need to know about that as well. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, so I know that crime prevention advice has been sent out by the Business Crime Hub around ensuring that your properties are secure. I know that Rags mentioned that some owners of properties won't be going back to their properties for some time, but I do urge that they are visited and over a period of time, that we don't leave them empty for too long, ensuring that all valuables as much as possible can be out, if not then secured, shutters down, etc.
So just on that securing of premises.
So obviously we are here to prevent crime, but I think it's a joint responsibility with owners to ensure that their premises are secure, and that's what we would ask of people. Yeah.
What is the sort of advice around the boarding up of premises, which may, it doesn't add to the ambiance of the environment, and it might, I guess, encourage some ASB. I don't know. Is that true? What is the advice from the police on that?
That's a hard one, isn't it? You're caught between a rock and a hard stone. How do you protect your property? And obviously you don't want to create an atmosphere that would encourage ASB, I should say. No, I mean, boarding up is to some extent it is really down to the individual, I think, down to the individual shop owner. If it's just a little bit of boarding, I'm sure that's fine. Most shops these days have shutters anyway. Shutters coming down is absolutely fine. But yeah, okay. I think it's just common sense approach really around trying to make sure your property's safe. More in line that the valuables inside are removed if possible.
And I guess that thing about going back to your premises is something that it's easy to be all at home and thinking, well, we don't have to worry about the office. But I mean, it's nothing to do with crime, but it's something occurred to me that all our office plants would be dying because there was no one there to water them. And that in itself was enough motivation to go back to the office. But yes.
If you want to deter, by all means put a notice on the front saying there are no valuables here, all have been removed. All that kind of signage goes a long way to deter people from even having a go.
Okay, that's really helpful. Okay, Rags, I'm just going to go back to you because on the chat it seems that the link isn't working, just to point that one out to you. So if you want to revisit that and provide the right chat, the right link, that'd be really helpful. Rupert, from your point of view, Rupert, just it would be interesting to hear, what are the things that you're seeing, that you're dealing with on the ground in the high street?
Well, when I'm on my patrols, there are a lot of people on the street. The queues have been handled quite well by the security. The last couple of weeks, I think there's been a little bit more shoplifting, blatant shoplifting. But the shops we've given all the radios to, they are talking to each other on the high street, so they're able to pretty much follow them down. And if I'm on one end, hopefully get down and try and catch some images of them. Yeah.
So for everyone to be vigilant, to support you and the police, and I guess going through to Successful Sutton, to Patricia and yourself and the team as well.
It definitely helps. I think quite a few people in Sutton are known to be prolific, so they're known by sight. But it's always useful to get clear description of them over the radio, so we know who we're picking up, or following down rather. Picking up is not my job.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Just going back to either Kathy or Rags, obviously Successful Sutton is a town centre business improvement district, but I know Patricia's very keen that the whole of the borough is sort of represented as part of this. Are you seeing different things happening in different high streets within the borough? Which one of you want to pick that up? Is there any, is it different in the centre as it might be maybe in Carshalton High Street or Beddington? How is that looking? One of you?
I'm afraid I don't know Sutton that in depth, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can jump in there if you want. No, I mean, generally we're seeing the same issues across all of the boroughs. Mm-hmm. Yes. In essence, I wouldn't say that there are large issues, okay? As I said previously, people are generally abiding by the COVID guidelines. And the majority of the public are working with us on that. So that's been very, very good. And I wouldn't say there's a specific area as such across the borough that is predominantly causing ASB and so forth. It's pretty much across the board.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. So, Rags, thanks for putting up a new link to take you to that counter-terrorism training. Which we would encourage everybody to go on to and take part in. I'm going to move now over to Neil. Cybersecurity, perhaps a word that many business people didn't really think was relevant to them, but it is very relevant, isn't it? Over to you. Talk to us about cybersecurity. Sorry, there we go. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, obviously everybody working from home. For some people, this has meant buying new equipment and all sorts of stuff. So there are certain aspects just around the issues of being at home to start with. One of the first things, of course, is that we will all be using our domestic routers. So those the broadband that we have at home will be using to access the work systems, which in itself gives a problem straight away because they are fairly simple, and I don't mean that in a technical term, but I mean compared to the servers you might have at work, And obviously, one of the things that people like BT and Virgin have been very keen to do is to make sure that
we think we
is everybody? Can you hear me? Yeah. Is to increase the bandwidth, and what this does is basically just broadening the pipes that all our internet comes down, which allows more rubbish, more scam, more bad stuff to come down it as well. So the first concern that everybody should have been thinking about is making sure that their routers at home are safe, that they've got the latest software on it, that they've uploaded the latest software, they've changed their passwords. That's just the basic start, and then of course you'll have heard about using VPNs to secure your network. Hopefully you've looked at putting things like that in place. But then there is just a very simple thing now of people potentially using their home equipment to do work. And so there's the danger of the cross-pollination, if you like, of what you do at home and what you do at work. So whereas there are probably certain websites at work you would not go on, you're quite likely to be going on them at home, whether it be Amazon, Netflix, things like that, or and obviously other ones that we would do at home. The danger is there that you take something from your home into work. So this is something we've got to be very careful about. The top of the list, and anybody who's been following stuff from the National Cybersecurity Centre, who are obviously the lead on this, is all about passwords. Strong password policy. Make sure that you have a separate password for every account you're accessing. Make sure that it's a robust one. Strong passphrase. I think one of the questions that came out after last week's webinar was, would it not be a good idea if work issued them to you on a regular basis? Well, no, it wouldn't. That's just a recipe for disaster, because you'll just write them down, and if you're a man, you'll leave them stuck to the computer terminal itself, and if you're a lady, you'll probably put it in that little notebook that you have in your handbag or purse, and it becomes very easy for it to be lost, stolen. The danger is, of course, we have family, as we can hear on this, walking in and out, walking in the background, and the last thing that you want is your 8-year-old son to pick up your password and access your work stuff or something like that, which of course they will do because they're inquisitive. So these are things that we need to think about. The list is short, really. There's a sort of a 10-point list to think about. But I think one of the really important things is that it is reinforced on a weekly basis, because people do become blasé about it. We do employ the best people we can, but even the best people make mistakes. We know that, and there's nobody on this call who's not made a mistake in the workspace at some point. So it does happen. The most well-meaning, accidental stuff, particularly now with the pressures that we've got on us. It's not always easy to contact the next man up the line, the next lady up the line, whatever, and you make a snap decision, and you find that you've done the wrong thing, you clicked on the wrong link, and suddenly, as was alluded to earlier, you're finding invoices and what have you being paid fraudulently or not being paid. So I think continual reinforcement that people have to be aware about this. It's not so much don't do things. We know about not clicking on links, not opening those emails that we don't know where they come from, but it's about doing things. It's about making sure your passwords are robust, making sure you've turned on two-factor authentication, and making sure you're not moving the work stuff across to home stuff and vice versa. You're keeping the two as separate as you possibly can.
I imagine that home working thing must be quite a challenge, because we all had to quite quickly move to home working. And I guess a lot of people were then moving into their home computers as opposed to being able to physically take their computer with them. So that must be quite a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of businesses have obviously gone out and bought new equipment for people to use at home. But I think if you tried to do that this week, you would get a big out of stock wherever you went. And so more companies are allowing that using your own device at home, even in the financial sector. Areas where you think it was quite robust. And it is. It's a very big danger because, let's face it, you have an IT team at work, or you have some kind of management system at work that hopefully is uploading the latest software and doing antivirus checks and one thing and another. But anybody working at home, when was the last time that you checked that the antivirus on your system was up to date? When was the last time any of us looked at that router that sits there and goes off occasionally, but is mostly just there, happily working away? When, if ever, did you check that it was up to date? Or even that the password was a robust one? So, yeah, all sorts of new things that, to be frank, we should always think about. But, cyber gets pushed well down as we're just used to having it. Particularly if we've got youngsters in the house, it's very much a throwaway thing for them. And you suddenly find that where you've given your young child their first ever password to go on Moshi Monsters or the CBBS or something like that was the one that either mum or dad had themselves, probably the street name and the house number, or the dog's name and the date of birth. And it's never been changed. The child has never come back to you and said, can I have another password? They've just used that one all the time. And of course, that makes your whole system very weak, particularly now you're bringing home stuff in, work stuff into the home. So the potential to get something that wouldn't have done much damage on your home network, hopefully, providing that you've kept your financial stuff fairly robust, but suddenly allowed to get into the workspace could cause huge amounts of problems. And it might be that there's a malware on your home system that will eke its way into the work system, and the next thing you know, you've got a ransomware attack. And then, I'll let somebody else talk, because that's another conversation, perhaps.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you in just a sec. I just want to let people know that are watching, we have launched a poll which is all about how confident you're feeling in the current environment, about whether your business is going to get through this current scenario. It's a poll that we'll run regularly so that we can start to hopefully track how over a period of time people's confidence levels are changing. So those of you that are watching, you should be able to see that poll. I'll just ask you to click on the one that you're feeling at the moment. Quite interesting that actually people's confidence levels are changing. We know that from sort of 5 weeks ago when we started running these webinars. How people are feeling is obviously very different to how they were feeling when it all started. I think just coming back to you, Neil, on the cybersecurity, and apologies if you've already said this, but my internet connection keeps timing me out. But just in terms of where people can go for more help, because it's a big, scary subject. And I guess, not everyone has an IT consultant or at hand. But I know that the website, your website, does have a lot of information. How can they actually access and get someone to talk them through the various things? Is that possible?
Well, yes, they're always very welcome to talk with us at the Police Digital Security Centre. It's policedsc.com is our website. And of course, the best advice is on the National Cybersecurity Centre's website. Oops. My lights have gone out on the national. Sorry, I'll try and get that one back up. Well, you can hear me. The National Cybersecurity's website will be a very good place to go. Global Cyber Alliance have all got great stuff. I'm willing to be talked down by Catherine and Rags, but probably the police is not your first port of call. They have got more important things to deal with right at this time. More people to. Not enough people to deal with those kind of issues. There is obviously action fraud, but the National Cybersecurity Centre have announced this week and are really pushing anything that you get that might be particularly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. You just send off those potential phishing emails to phishing@gov.uk. You can find the website. The email address for help. But yeah, we're more than happy to give advice on the fly. So please do pick up our email address. I think we're on all the Sutton bid stuff, and I know the Meta putting out things by us as well at the moment. So you can find those on various social media websites. And please, if you have any problems or issues, do give us a call or send us a message. We're always happy to help.
And Rags, that you would second that? Would you? That is the route to go if you have a cyber-related crime.
In regards to cyber-related crimes, that would be the best place to go to as well. On their Twitter, they're always posting regular updates, and Action Fraud is what we normally would be our first port of call to report any fraudulent or cybercrime-related incidents. And
just so that people are 100% clear, Neil, the relationship of the organisation you work for to the police, just so everyone is fully aware.
Right, yes. So we're a not-for-profit. We're wholly owned by the Police Crime Prevention Initiatives, which was set up by the National Police Chiefs Council a number of years ago. And we have a formal relationship with the Metropolitan Police Service to help them deliver the cybersecurity part of their prevent and protect strategy. So we're very much in tune with them. They have our stuff, we have their stuff, and we work hand in hand.
So I just thought it was helpful to make that clear. You're not working randomly for some cybersecurity commercial.
No, and all our information to the likes of you out there is free. It's a free service. We don't charge anybody, and we don't sell anything.
That's really helpful. Thank you. So we've just launched our second poll, which launches us neatly into introducing our latest guest. But it's about what's the biggest concern you've had about leaving your place of work vacant. And we just really want to ask you, what are you worried about? I can see immediately someone saying rent payments, well-being of staff, clearly, with everybody working from home. How do you as an employer ensure that your staff are kept well and healthy and are engaged with, particularly when you're not actually allowed to give them any work or talk to them about work? Ironically, they can work for someone else, but they can't work for you, which is all a bit strange, but there we go. And also, obviously, around paying staff. So those of you who are watching, I'd be really grateful if you could fill in that poll. I'm going to introduce Mark Skelton in. Now, I can't see you, Mark. Your face is not currently showing.
No, hi there.
Hi, Mark. It might be because you've got your video switched off in the bottom corner of your screen. There's a little sign.
I was sort of logged in properly earlier, and then for some reason I've lost everybody else as well on the screen. So not sure whether I might just try and log back in.
Okay, all right. Why don't you do that? I don't know whether, Kathy, this is putting you a bit on the spot, but in terms of what you might recommend as being the key considerations that if you're a business at the moment, what do you think are the top things that you should be thinking about in terms of security?
Yeah, I mean, from a security point of view, I mean, I think the obvious ones, aren't they, is sort of making sure that your premises are as secure as possible and that you're not leaving high valuable things there. I mean, every kind of property is a bit different, because obviously if you're a retailer, then that's quite hard. That you've probably got to keep your goods there, and it's very difficult to move them. You can get remote alarms put in if you don't have good alarm systems already, and they will be monitored by sort of central stations, and some of them will have a camera on, so if it's a false alarm, set off by something, it's not a problem. Hello. Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
I can hear you, but
can you hear me okay?
I'm muted. So I can, Mark, I can hear you, if you can hear me.
Okay, yeah, that's great. So you can get remote alarms put in, which are always a good idea. Other things, more on industrial estates and retail parks, becomes an issue with sort of fly tipping. Again, companies can put in CCTV, which is remotely looked after and monitored. And
signal. So
going. I'll try and log back in. Yeah.
Hi, sorry, I don't think it's you. I think we've lost Catherine briefly, just so everyone is aware. I think that's what the situation. I think we've all had a few internet gremlins today. I think I've suffered with them this morning, so I think Catherine's kind of doing that. So we can hear you, so that's fine.
The whole system's gone into meltdown. I wasn't quite sure if I was just talking to myself.
No, you're good. You're good.
So there are a few things, like that. Maybe sort of getting barriers installed if you can at car parks. Otherwise, you can get cars dumped, that kind of thing. Generally, from a security point of view, it's the normal items, I suppose. Have you got, and most people will probably have them. They'll have alarms installed, they'll have grills. So you have all of those things. One point probably is insurance. And often, if your premises aren't occupied or used for a while, your insurers will want properties inspected regularly.
Yeah, so we were covering that a little bit earlier, actually, the need to not just think that you can walk away and never go back. Keep popping in to make sure that everything is as it should be.
Exactly, yeah. So that's an important one. And it may just be worth, different insurers have slightly different rules. Some want weekly, some want sort of every other week. But yeah, that is something definitely to keep an eye on.
Okay. Mark, can I ask you to move on to talking a little bit about the question of rents?
Yes.
What is the scenario on that?
Yeah. Well, the scenario on rent is, obviously, if you've got a lease, you're contractually bound to pay your rent. So you are generally, you're at the beck and call of the landlord. Most landlords are happy to talk to their tenants and happy to help in some way. Lots of landlords will because the problem with rent is they're often paid quarterly in advance. So it's a big chunk of money and it hits people's cash flow quite badly. So landlords might, for instance, accept rents being paid monthly rather, in advance rather than quarterly. Some landlords will be, more flexible, and they might agree reduced rents for a period of time, or even a rent holiday for a period of time. And I think depending on different kind of businesses, quite clearly certain businesses, sort of events, training, anything where people get together has just literally almost stopped, and businesses' income has just sort of ceased to be coming in. And so rent's a big issue. And I think landlords are there. They're happy to talk to their tenants because they want to keep a tenant, so that when it all comes back, they've got their rent coming in again. They've got a tenant there who's looking after the premises, paying the insurance, paying the business rates, rather than having premises become vacant and they'll have a long void. So it's probably important to have the conversation with your landlord. There's no sort of fixed rules there, and different landlords they'll have their own circumstances. I mean, some of our clients, we act for both landlords and tenants, and some of our clients, of course, they're not super wealthy, huge corporations. Their properties probably have loans on, and the rent goes towards paying part of the loan and interest. So there are some issues there. Sometimes landlords can't be very flexible, but we're generally finding most of our clients are just keen to keep the tenants. Then they may, there may be something that we can give them in return, and quite often as a bit of a deal, you might get some rent free or reduced rent for a period or something like that. In return, a tenant might say, look, I'll take a break out. So you might have a break in your lease in 2 years or something like that. And you might say, look, I'll take that break out. If I could have a few months rent free now, so I'm giving you something back, Mr. Landlord, in that you've got some certainty of income. Or you might put a bit on the end of your lease. You know, if you've got 3 years left on your lease, you might say to the landlord, can I have a bit of rent free or some reduced rent over the next 12 months, and I'll give you an extra year on the end of your lease.
Yeah. So I guess all this is to communicate with your landlord.
Yeah, it is.
And not to just stop paying.
No.
You might have to stop paying, but taking the opportunity to talk about the scenario and coming up with whatever the right solution is for that business.
Yes, exactly that.
There isn't a national rule, is there?
No, there's not. There's not. I think the only thing is, I think the government, have said that landlords can't change locks and kick tenants out for non-payment of rent. So I think there is that bit of protection there. I think reality is that most landlords wouldn't have done that anyway, because they don't want empty buildings that they can't let, because at the moment there's no lettings happening. So I think the best thing is exactly that, is contact your landlords and discuss it with them, and hopefully some sort of payment package can be agreed.
So the tenant holds all the cards at the moment, don't they? Because the government have said that no one is allowed to be evicted and etc. etc. But the reality is, at some point when we start to come out the other side, that won't always be the case. So if you've defaulted and not had the conversation, you're probably not putting yourself in the best position.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
When you come out the other side. Okay, that's really helpful. I just want to remind everybody watching that there is an opportunity to talk, ask some questions. If anyone has said you disagree with, or maybe you want a little bit of personal advice about your own situation, or maybe there's an instance that you didn't know how to handle, just encourage you all just to either chat to us on the chat button or to put a question through the Q&A button as well. As we're sort of rounding towards the end, I thought it would be helpful. One other thing was business rates. Yes.
I don't know if you've touched on that.
Please, that would be helpful.
But that is, I'm definitely not a rate specialist, but there are some quite good packages out there at the moment, particularly for retail. Retail, leisure, pubs, restaurants, I think children's nurseries. They've widened the description of retail and leisure quite a bit. So it's worth looking at whether you would actually come under new classifications and might get business rate relief for 12 months if you're in those sort of sectors. And again, I could send something to you if you like, just to explain what actually now is included.
Yeah, I think on the Successful Sutton website, there is a COVID-19 page with relevant links to the various different funding streams that are available. And I know Patricia and the team are probably the best first port of call if you need further help. One of the things we know is that local authorities are very challenged at the moment with the amount of inquiries that are coming in. They are the people that are delivering both the rates relief scheme and also the grant schemes, the 2 grant schemes that are out there. And I know that every local authority is dealing with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of inquiries.
Yeah, it must be enormous, mustn't it?
Yeah, so a good port of call is probably go through to Successful Sutton if you're not getting the response that perhaps you were looking for. Then do go down that route first. What I want to do is I want to ask each of our panelists to just sort of give us some sort of closing thoughts on what you think the top priorities are that we should be sharing with the businesses at the moment. Can I start first of all with Rags? Could you just give us a sort of an overview? And also, can I just also say, and I know Kathy, we touched upon this briefly when we were offline before we started. There is going to be an exit at some point. We are going to be coming out of this. What do businesses need to be thinking about now in terms of that exit strategy? We don't know when it's going to be, but we do know at some point it will be happening. And what are those new challenges that we'll probably be facing as businesses at that time? So if I can start with you, Rags.
So from a business crime physical security perspective, as Inspector Cathy was saying, it's quite important to make regular weekly visits, if possible, to your premises. Whether that's, even if it's something as small as getting rid of any litter, graffiti, all of those things build up. And not only do they build up, but they also make it more attractive for people trying to break in, because it looks like a location that people aren't taken care of.
Yeah.
In regards to the boarding up, you're talking about, the boarding up is really in order to conceal any valuables that you've got within the premises. If you can remove those valuable items, or if you can get them locked securely somewhere else, that would be the best. Boarding up, not completely necessary. Also, signage as well on the outside that there are no valuables or money stored on the premises also helps. Other than those, I've left some our top 10 tips that we created for businesses on the chat. But the other two big ones, as mentioned, would be CCTV. When you do go check, make sure there's enough memory storage on your unit to keep recording, and also make sure that unit is safely stored away somewhere secure, so people can't tamper with that itself. And intruder alarms as well. Make sure people who are going to the business know the ins and outs of how to the opening, closing procedures. Make sure that the alarm companies has a list of who holds the keys. And yeah, there's other stuff as well. But if you go on that link, you guys can read it at your own leisure.
That's brilliant. Great, thank you. Patricia, we've lost Patricia on video, but she can still talk and hear us. We're obviously having a few technical problems today. Patricia, just in terms of that point that Rags made about keeping your premises clean and tidy, presumably the BID and the local authority are still doing their usual sort of tidying job. Is that sort of all being looked after from a BID perspective?
No, I've got to be honest, I think the high streets never looked so tidy. So I think from our perspective, obviously with less footfall, there's more or less build up of anything like litter and so on. So it's actually made it a lot easier, I think, for Veolia, who are still doing their job regularly, to be able to clean up what is being left behind. I think from a business perspective, I had a report through this morning that there are still shopping trolleys being left around where the usual collection services aren't being done. But it's all stuff that we can engage with the businesses about on the high street and get those back to where they belong, where people have taken them. And yeah, just keeping us informed of anything that is spotted by businesses or that they need from us. The website has all of the information pretty much we've talked about today on there, including a lot of stuff from the Business Crime Centre and so on, particularly about protecting businesses. And we constantly share everything that we're sent from Met Police and from the council out to all of the levy and all the businesses in the district, so that they're kept up to date with any changes and anything that becomes available for them.
Great, that's lovely. Cathy, just back to you in terms of this sort of exit strategy conversation. At some point we're going to come out of this. What should businesses be aware of as and when that happens?
Oh no, I'm always looking on the bright side, and we will come out on the other side for sure. And as I spoke briefly before this webinar, we are putting together exit strategy plans currently now. I haven't got a date when they'll be shared with the community and shared with the local authority, etc. But I will look into that. And obviously, as soon as we have those finalised, we will be communicating that to yourselves, to the community and to our partners. I just want to sort of go back on just some of the security aspects. I know we've talked a lot about the security of closed premises, of people that have boarded up their premises for a while. Forensic marking is key, I think, as well as a security measure. There's several property marking deterrents which can be used to enhance the security of items. But for those properties or those commercial premises such as retail outlets, supermarkets that are open and are dealing daily with customers, it's key really that we ensure that staff are briefed, that they reassure customers who some will be anxious. It's key really to try and reduce antisocial behaviour really. So I'm just sort of, a message I'm sort of putting out there is we are doing our, we're doing our utmost. Everybody is coming together. And I think just to remain calm and express that to the customers, that there are queues, but the majority of queues that we are seeing, people are acting accordingly, and that really, as owners, as managers in those premises, that they ensure that all the staff are briefed each day, really, to make sure they're aware of their emergency working procedures, their working practices, and that all staff remain vigilant at times and report any violence or any suspicious activity to the police, because we do take those matters very seriously, of any violence against any person. I suppose really it's around ensuring that people are considering minimising the number of entry points into buildings, and ensuring that building perimeters are clear, as we've already said, of any debris, dustbin, ladders or loose tools that could assist any entry into those premises as well. So, yeah.
Really helpful, thank you. Rupert, you're, as we said before, very much on the front line there, dealing with some of this, and you're the face that many businesses will get to see. A final word from you. How can they help you do your job better?
I think just really kind of touching on what I said earlier. When the radio calls come out, if something's happened at a particular premises, or they recognise someone that's caused problems in the past, just get on the radio, because it will put the message out that these people aren't kind of welcome in the area, on the shoplifting side of things.
Great, okay. And Mark, I'm going to come back to you. We actually have a question from Eula Lynch, very well known to everyone in Sutton. She's saying, with regards to rent, her solicitors, they wouldn't negotiate on the rent, and they said there was nothing preventing the landlord issuing winding up orders if they did not pay in full and on time. Is that correct? Do you know?
Pretty aggressive way of dealing with staff, isn't it? I think that is right, actually. I'm not an expert on that kind of thing, but I have read, and colleagues have been saying that while the government have actually sort of legislated so that landlords can't, via the lease, go in for unpaid rent and forfeit the lease and take the premises back. So the government has stopped that. But that doesn't stop somebody winding your business up. So I guess that's more a business side of things. So if you're owed however much it is, then whoever that debt is owed to could presumably take action to forcibly get you to pay the money or wind the business up. So that is a bit of a problem. It's not something I'm an expert on, because it's not really a property thing, but I have heard that some aggressive landlords have been taking that kind of tone. Yeah,
I guess, as we said before, it's not really in their interest to do that, because ultimately they try and support the businesses to keep their tenants long term. So
most people really wouldn't want that. Because one of the issues that we've all been talking about is security. You'd rather have a tenant whose job is to look after the premises.
Yeah, it doesn't really have to have an empty premises, does it?
Yeah, and unless there's something else going on there that, for whatever reason, they actually would like possession of the property because they want to redevelop it or something like that, or they think it's worth more. But I haven't heard that. I've heard that scenario. Maybe, I haven't heard it happen.
Maybe if Eula needs some more advice on that, she could talk to you direct. You may well know.
Of course she could.
You may know the landlord and may have some inroad there. So we can perhaps put the two of you in touch. That's really helpful. Neil, final words from you this afternoon.
Yes, I think the important thing is to keep reinforcing to your workforce about their cybersecurity, that they keep thinking about it. It's very important. And one thing that I didn't mention, which is really important for people who are working at home, is make sure that you are regularly backing up your work. Because if something does go horribly wrong, and we're locked down, well, let's say until Whitsun Bank Holiday, you're going to lose nearly 9 weeks worth of work. And that's a really key thing. So keep backing your stuff up, making sure you've got it safe, and keep doing the simple things. That's all.
Great, thank you very much. Patricia, final word from you?
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Basically, it's been really handy to have everyone on the call today. I know, sorry, I'm kind of an unseen force at the moment. But yeah, no, I think it's been really helpful. I think there's a lot of stuff that we've talked about today that's relevant to a lot of the queries that I've had, particularly from businesses. And I know the police have been doing a brilliant job at the minute. So it's tough on everybody, I think. But we will, as I say, we are going to come out the other side of it. It's just a question of when. And just making sure everyone's communicating as much as possible. If you are having difficulties, or if you need to know anything, or you're trying to reach someone within the council or within the police or anything to report something, then do just drop us a line and we can see if we can assist you in any way that we can.
That's great. Thank you on behalf of Patricia and everybody to our experts. I know you're all really busy people, and the police in particular. You've got a big job on your hands. I'm really grateful to everything that you're doing to help keep us all safe. So just to remind everybody, we are back on Tuesday at 2:00. We'll be releasing tomorrow what next week's subject is. This webinar, with all the technical issues that we experience, will be available as a YouTube video. So anyone that didn't see it, or you want to remind yourself of what was discussed, you can go back on that. And we'll also be issuing everyone who's been watching with some notes that will give you links to all of the websites and help that's been offered today. Thank you all again very much. To everyone that's watching, stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you on Tuesday. Thanks very much.